Hey guys, Vas here from Aussie Playground and welcome to another episode of RC Pit Stop. Today I'm going to be finishing off my Team Magic E6 BES. This is the bird-eating spider version of their recently released E63HX. You get this truck as a roller and has a few upgrades, and of course you have to install your own electrics and finish it off. Now if you want to know more about this truck and you want to see more of it in detail, I'll have links in the description to the unboxing where I actually compare it to the ready to run version, so you guys get an idea of differences between the two. Now I'm going to be installing the HOBBYWING system that I got for this truck, which is an easy run system. This comes with a a 2200 kV 4274 brushless motor. Of course comes with 150 amp ESC, which is waterproof as well, and this allows you to run up to 6S in this truck, which I think is going to be awesome. And as you can see, I've kind of just dummy fitted the electrics in here at the moment. I just wanted to make sure that these cables were going to be long enough to get over the transmission and plug into the ESC, and thankfully they are, but obviously it would have been probably nice if I had an extra 5 or 10 millimeters to play with, but can't really ask any more of that given the circumstances and the way that this is all laid out. Usually the ESC will tend to sit opposite the motor on the opposite side of the chassis or something like that. So to go long ways, it's kind of like going the long way around here. It just makes it, I'm pretty happy with the layout. It will work just fine. Now for a steering servo, I've turned to a brand that I've used before, which is this CYS brand. These are available from AsiaTees, and I've had one very similar to this one. This was a little bit specced up. I've got one like this in my Thunder Tiger ST4 when I did a rebuild video of that car quite a long time ago actually. And I decided to go with the same one because I'm very happy with these servos. They've been fantastic. These CYS steering servos are really nice. And this one here can run on high voltage, which is 7.4 volts, and has a 0.08 second response time and 20 kilogram as well. So very torquey, plenty fast. I think it'll be ample for this monster truck. Of course, I know that there are bigger motors out, bigger servos out there, but for what I want, I think this will do the job perfectly fine. And yeah, looking forward to installing this guy in here. For a radio, I'm going to be connecting it up to my Futaba 4PLS. So I've got this receiver here, which I really like these Futaba receivers. They have no antennas sticking out of them, so they'll sit in the little receiver box in there, which will work just fine. And then of course, the ESC does come with a program card, so if I do want to do some tuning on it, I can do that as well. Now the truck comes in the box does come with a 13-tooth pinion, but I'm not going to be using a 13-tooth pinion. I'm going to step it up with a 16-tooth. I've got a pinion here that I kind of not using at the moment. I think this came out of one of my Armour cars. So I'll be using a 16-tooth in this guy just to get a feel of how the truck's going to perform with that. I think 13-tooth for this brushless system is probably going to be a bit under-geared, at least based on the experience that I've had with the ready-to-run version. So I'll go with the 16, see how we go, and then play around with it from there, and yeah, just get a feel for it. Now you notice that I don't have the body on here at the moment. I'm not going to do the body in this episode. I'm going to do a separate episode for the body because I've got a little bit of a design going on with that, and I think that's going to, it kind of entitles it to its own episode. So this one here is just going to be for the install of the electrics. I'm going to get to work now. I'm going to start putting all of these things in, and yeah, then I'll come back and show you, little steps and little tricks that I may need to share with you should I come across any sort of tricky situations. Okay, that's it. I'm done. I've pretty much powered through this entire install. Didn't waste too much time in kind of showing you anything as far as I was working on the truck this time around, because it's a fairly simple thing to do. However, there are a couple of little things here that I'm going to be pointing out to you guys if you do have this truck, and also even if you don't have, just out of curiosity, just some of the things that I sort of came across. No real issues, to be honest with you. Everything went through very smoothly, but just a couple of things to note. What I did here with my ESC, if I can show you here on screen, basically the wires for the ESC kind of run underneath it because the ESC is mounted on this like separate plate. that you might be able to see there on screen. Now, the cables kind of come from underneath. The ESC cable goes to where the receiver box is, and obviously my power cable is right there where the switch is. Now, the way that the receiver and everything is connected on these trucks is actually really quite cool. The receiver itself for my remote is inside this top box here, but the cable, the excess cable that you have, what you normally sort of fold up and scrunch up inside next to your receiver, that's actually hidden underneath the actual receiver box. Because the way that Team Magic have done this is you have your excess cable going underneath this little cavity that's underneath the receiver box, and then you sort of plug it into these pre-mounted plugs that are on there, and these plugs are silicon sealed, so they're designed to be 100% waterproof, and that way you don't short out your receiver or anything like that. So your ESC plugs into these plugs, they come through the top, and then from there you then plug it into your actual receiver, to your remote, and that's it. And then it all gets sealed up, and the receiver box is pretty much, you know, as waterproof as it can be, without having any sort of you know, sponges or anything, where normally I've seen some receiver boxes where they have like this kind of little sealed sponge or whatever, or rubber seal, where the cables need to feed through. Well, this is all silicon sealed. It's just watertight. It's really quite a clever design. I'm very impressed with that. Now for your servo, it's a similar sort of scenario, but to be honest with you, the way that they've done this is they've actually already got a pre-routed cable that goes underneath here. You can see the cable there, right? So this was already in the truck before I put any electrics in here, and it also goes through to this little cavity underneath the receiver box, and obviously, you know, then you have the extra cable to plug into your receiver. From here, your servo plugs into these plugs that are mounted on the back of it here. I'll see if I can show you. So it plugs into these plugs just there, and then the excess cable that you have for your servo, that feeds through, and I'll see if I can show you here, that feeds through a channel that's over here. There's like a plastic plate that you need to remove, and you can see the channel just there. So your cable kind of feeds through there, and then whatever's left you put into this extra receiver box they got at the front of the truck. So it's a very neat setup. It's really quite nice the way that Team Magic have done this. It is a little bit fiddly to get all this done. You know, it takes a bit of time to get it all done, and like for example, I had my gear mesh and everything done before I mounted and routed all my wires, and then I found that I had to remove the motor to take out this plate and feed my cables through. So if you do have one of these and you're going to be doing your install, leave your gear mesh to last. That should be your last thing that you do. I kind of jumped the gun a little bit and then yeah, did that. I also had to swap over one of my cables as well for this particular setup. So I kind of had them all straight. You can see the two of them here are kind of crossed over, and that really is because when I pulled the trigger, the reverse speed was going forward and the forward speed was going in reverse. So even though the truck was moving in the right direction that I wanted to, the speeds were back to front, and so were the brakes. So it didn't really brake. And anyway, long story short, I had to swap my cables around, and that fixed that problem. I will say though that these plugs, these bullet connectors that go to the ESC, are extremely difficult to put in and out. So these aren't going to be coming out very easily. I actually had to force them in with a pair of pliers, and to take them out I also have to use a pair of pliers because I can't take these out by hand or even push them in by hand. They are that difficult to put in there. So very, very tight fit. I do have a zip tie here holding the ESC in place. I do also have some double-sided tape there on the ESC. The reason why I put the additional zip tie, purely because the ESC is kind of being brought forward. There's you know, there is a little bit of slack in the cable, but just in case, you know, there is a bit of a tug or anything like that, zip tie should keep the ESC nicely planted there. Less chance of it coming unglued from that tray. So that's why I've done that. And that's really just about it. There's really not much to it. I think all up it took me about an hour to get all of this done. The only thing I did have to sort of modify as well before I forget, with the servo, there's a little access sort of hatch here for you to mount your servo horn onto your servo and everything. Make sure your servo's centered out before you do that. Just plug it in, and it'll zero out. Make sure your trim's at 0 and all of that, so that when you mount your servo horn, you can see exactly where your steering's going to be. My steering was a little bit off, so I kind of had to extend this arm, and I'm hoping you guys can see that there. I've kind of had to sort of open this up a little bit, just so that my wheels would actually sit straight when the remote kind of went to its default position. But that's really about it. I mean, it's a pretty straightforward install. Everything is fairly well laid out as well. I really do like this new motor mount. It's very sturdy, very stout. The screws, there's 2 screws to adjust your gear mesh. There's 2 screws here on top, which make light work of doing gear mesh. The only thing is I can't really spin my my spur gear. There's nowhere for me to really get access to my spur, except for there's a little bit of underneath. You can get underneath it a little bit, just in there, but that's actually a good thing. Spur gear is not exposed. And also, when you mount your pinion, make sure that you kind of mount your pinion. I don't know if you'll see this on camera, but it's kind of mounted in reverse, so the grub screw is facing outwards, if that makes any sense, because of the way that the motor mount is designed and everything, and where your spur gear is. You want the teeth to go in first. Anyway, you'll figure it out. It's pretty easy. It's just a matter of putting it in reverse, that's all. That's pretty much it, guys. I'm going to leave it here. I think I've talked on for long enough. Now, as I said, I'm not going to be doing the body in this episode, but for argument's sake, just so you can see the finished truck, I do have a brand new E63HX ready to run body that I can put on this truck, and you can see how this guy is going to look, obviously with a completely different color scheme on the body anyway. And that's it. Please be sure to like the video before you go. Don't forget to check out the video description for more information on this truck, as well as the ready to run version. And there'll also be a link in there to my Facebook page. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I will speak to you guys next time.